I'm delighted to be joined by Poppy O'Toole. Poppy, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Now, we've got to talk about it. Potatoes. I'm sure you're sick and tired of talking about potatoes. No, it's
Never,
definitely your
never,
thing.
ever will I ever get sick of talking about potatoes. Every time I see adverts now and things are getting really potato led, like
Yeah.
I don't know, crisps and stuff and chips and like everything's about the potato. And I'm like, are they speaking to me? And I'm like, no, stop being so obsessed.
So tell me then, so where did your love of potatoes first start? Where did it come from?
What, I mean, does anybody not love potatoes? I don't know, from day one, really. I don't know what it I don't know when I started becoming obsessed with potatoes. I always have been. I've always been a fan. I mean, they're delicious.
Right.
But it came into its own in 2020, in like a November-ish time when I did 25 days potatoes. It was, I'd like to say it was like a master plan. It wasn't. It was a coincidence because I had my first viral video. Yeah, I suppose it was the first kind of really viral video that I did on my socials, which was a potato recipe that got 1 million views. So I was like, well, we've got 25 days of lockdown. Let's do 25 days potatoes. But having said that, I have always been, when I was working in kitchens and stuff, I would be the one on potato prep. So it was just kind of taking recipes that I'd already done years prior and bringing them to social media.
So for people listening to this, for people that have got a garden, what would you recommend? What particular potato?
I think I love Amaris Piper. I think they're one of the most versatile of the potatoes. But I suppose in terms of ease, a new potato is easier to grow because it's less time, I'm assuming,
Yes.
because they're smaller. And also my family, my parents have grown purple potatoes, which are very good. I mean, that is quite an achievement when you see this lovely, beautiful purple potato come out the ground. But yeah, I think if you're going for the versatility of a spud, I'd go Maris Piper or maybe King Edwards.
I was going to say I'm a fan of King Edward potatoes. So in terms of recipes, obviously you've cooked so many dishes with potatoes. Have you got a particular favorite?
Favorite dish or favorite potato?
Favorite dish?
Okay, favorite dish. I'm a big fan of anything crispy.
Yes.
So I love a roast potato or a chip or a fondant potato, which is like this little round bit of potato cooked in butter and stock, and it just gets like gloriously caramelized, and then it's just butter in the middle, and it's just. But you can't.
Perfection.
Yeah, you can't have many of them. They're quite.
They're very naughty, but they are divine.
Yes.
So obviously you are a trained chef, and in terms of going into potatoes, and when you were you've gone from a trained chef to potatoes, but when you were in those Michelin star restaurants, how did you make up those kind of dishes using potatoes, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's always kind of when you're working underneath somebody, so there's obviously the head chef or the owner who has all the ideas, I suppose, and then the whole team kind of rallies around to make it the best it could be. So it's all about getting little nuggets of information and ideas from lots of people and bringing it together. So one of the dishes that we kind of came up with as a team, I can never take credit for one dish. Like, it doesn't happen. As a chef, I don't think nowadays many people can literally say, yes, I completely came up with this on my own. It's just almost impossible. But we used to do this beautiful potato dauphine, which is a classic way of cooking a potato, which is very French, but it's a choux pastry with mashed potato in it, and you deep fry it.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, delicious. So I kind of took that more recently and decided to make it a sweet, because I was like, well, choux pastries are eclairs, they're profiteroles. So I like to do it stuffed with Nutella and marshmallow on top of it.
Oh my goodness me.
Filthy, absolutely filthy. Again, you could only have about one of them before you're like,
Yeah, one a year. Oh my gosh, what a treat.
yeah.
No, definitely. And obviously with your chef background, what we're talking about a lot at the moment in terms of food security, making sure that young people know where their food has come from. Is that something that you're really passionate about as well?
It is. I think it's a kind of lost art at the minute. When I was younger, I've always been obsessed with food, so that's never been an issue for me. I always wanted to be digging or finding something. My grandparents, I was really lucky, they had like plum trees So, you know, we'd always be like almost foraging for stuff. Whereas my little brother and sister, who are 13 and 15 now, there's a good old age gap between us. They're not quite like that. They're not really aware or care as much. They love food because they can see it all the time. You know, they get to see the world. But what they're not bothered about is, you know, seeing how long it takes to grow or to kind of cultivate these different vegetables. Whereas it was something I was definitely more interested in when I was little. I like being dirty and grubby and getting down in the mud and stuff. So it's something that I would like to definitely get into more. I'm still trying to find a balance between everything, because I think it can be, when you get into that, you've got to really get into it and dedicate a lot of time.
Yeah,
and I really want to, and we've like bought our first ever house, which is amazing. So now I've got a garden I can actually do stuff in, and I'm like, yes. But it's just like, you have to learn so much. It's a whole new skill, and it's something that I'm trying to get into. I'm watching Gardener's World every weekend. I'm really
join the crew. I mean, we've recently bought our own house, and just having a garden, we've just put in a few, you know, we've grown some carrots and a few potatoes. I mean, I've been hopeless, Poppy, but you know, it's a learning curve as we go along.
I don't think the first time round you do very well. I don't think. That's what I've been seeing from a lot of people when I've like searched it up. Everyone's like, it's like 2 or 3 years in, then you get to know the soil and you get to know, and I'm like, oh my God, it's such a science. And my brain doesn't have the capacity to kind of like take it in. But like I said, I would love to bring it more to my forefront of what I actually do, because I think with chefs, it's always something that we are always thinking about. Where does that product come from? How can we get the best out of it? And how do we support the people who are doing that to give our customers the best they could ever get?
And I think you make an important point in terms of where that produce has come from. And, you know, at the moment, there's this real drive and push. You know, we need to celebrate our food that we grow in this country, British produce, you know, some of the highest welfare standards, some of the best quality. And, you know, some people may argue at the moment we're missing that trick a bit. You know, we have locally food sourced here. We do not need to be importing food. And I think that's something that, you know, our readers are very passionate about, and they want to get that message out there that, you know, the British farming industry is one of the best industries in the world for growing food.
It absolutely is. Don't most of the other countries buy all of our produce anyway? Like, I swear, like a lot of it gets exported or something. But like, it is one of the best. And when you get in season proper British produce, it is like unbelievable. British strawberries, some of the best ever. Like, but that's what I think. Another thing, a part of like the educating people around it, is also like, we should be eating seasonally. You shouldn't be able to get a strawberry in December. Like, yes, it's lovely that we are able to do that and incredible, but it isn't necessarily the best thing for us. You know, the land that we have in the UK gives us what we need to be supported throughout the year. You know, we are going to have to eat a lot more pears and apples when it becomes a bit colder, because that's what grows, and it's better for you, it's better for the environment, it's better for a lot of things. And it's just educating more people on it. I think when you're in the food scene, and when you're like a chef or you're just into that and you're into gardening, you know it, but a lot of people don't understand that. And when I've done certain things on socials before, like, this is what's in season, spring greens and stuff like this. This is cheaper, it's more readily available, these are some recipes around it. You know, I did kind of a mini series of how to use seasonal fruits and veg. And people just didn't understand that things came in seasons, and they were never taught it, that, you know, this is why certain things are cheaper at certain times of the year. This is why things are more expensive when they're imported. And they were like, oh, I didn't realize. I just thought that was what. No. There's so much to it.
There's an element of our food being taken for granted, that, you know, they expect to see it on the shelf. And when things happen, like with the Ukraine crisis, and you know, there was shortages on the shelves, that's when suddenly the conversation gets started again. Absolutely. But it shouldn't come to that point. You know, we should be always mindful that, you know, there are people at the end of the day that are growing that food and working hard to produce that. It doesn't just turn up on the shelves, which, you know, I've spoken to many young children who just assume a chicken lands up on the supermarket.
But is it, again, like, kind of like what, you know, no one also realizes how much work goes into it. So food waste becomes this like, oh yes, fine.
Very good point.
like, it's not just a carrot. Someone has had to get the seed, put it in the ground, nurture it, water it, make sure there's no weeds, make sure there's like, it's unbelievable how much work goes into it, but it is all taken for granted because you can literally walk into anywhere and just go like, oh yeah, thank you. And again, like you're saying with like chicken and the meat produce as well, is there's no connection between animal and meat, which again is bizarre. I was cooking with my little brother the other day, and I love using turkey legs because they're really cheap and you can get so much from them. Like, they're ridiculous. And
my mum would say that. My mum loves turkey, but people outside are like, why are you having turkey in like August, September? And I'm like, okay, because people just think it's a December thing, but
it's not. It's all year round.
Lean meat, and also cheap and cost effective for families.
So like, get this massive turkey leg. It's like $5 and you get like a kilo or something stupid. Like, it's ridiculous how much meat you can get. And I take the bones out, I took the skin off, and I was cutting the muscle, the actual meat. And he's like, oh, so where's all like the muscle and that? I was like, you eat the muscle. And he's like, oh, you eat? I was like, yeah. I was like, when you have a steak, like that bit is the fillets, the muscle. And he's like, oh, I didn't know that. And he was kind of half between like disgusted and also kind of like interested about it.
Yeah.
So I was showing him it all, and at the end of the day, he then took something away, and he said to me after, he's like, I like cooking with you, I learn a little bit. And it's just about educate. It's literally just opening people's eyes up to what it is actually going on.
And I think it's starting it early on as well, isn't it? At primary school, when I was at school, at secondary level, we had food tech and everything like that, but that's kind of being lost within the curriculum. And I think there's a real drive to try and bring it back to understand where food is coming from.
I think they're getting rid of it, aren't they? I think they'd like full stop getting rid of it unless you actually choose it as
which is such a shame, because we should be pushing it. Definitely. So I want to talk about being on farm. Do you often go on farm? Do you like going on farms?
I have been to a couple of farms, and they're incredible. I think they're amazing, but I have got a few more coming up. I'm going to go in to some potato farms. Why would we go to potato farms? It's like I said, it's finding a balance between all the other stuff that's going on as well. But it would be great to work more closely with producers and farmers, just to get the word out that this is where food comes from, because it is such an important part of the world. Like, this is how we all live.
No, definitely. And I think there's loads of misconceptions and stereotypes out there around the farming industry and farmers themselves. Do you know what I mean?
No, what? Tell me the misconceptions.
But you've got that traditional outlook of what farmer is, but actually when you go on farm, people are very pleasantly surprised. But also, like you say, in terms of the hours that they work, people just think, oh, they sit on their tractor and they go in, but actually they do so much work crafting away.
Oh yeah, it's like farmers are up at like 4 a.m. like doing things, like really important things. And it's just
my dad's a dairy farmer, so all his life has been getting up.
It's incredible. It's amazing, but there's not. It's like, if we were talking about surgeons, it would be a whole different, but they're working 24 hours. It's amazing. I mean, it's a stupid comparison from me because I'm like saving lives, but they don't get enough credit for the amount of work that actually gets put into it. And then when there was the whole kind of like milk fight, and it's like, just pay the farmers properly. Like, why can't we just?
I mean, it's very topical at the moment. Milk prices are plummeted down, and a lot of farmers, they just want a fair price for what they're producing.
It's all just the big supermarkets being like, we'll just take the price down, don't worry. It's like, doesn't quite work like that. Everything else has gone up.
That's an interesting point. So where does the future hold for Poppy? Obviously, you've got so many different ventures going on. And, I have to say, so when it was the pandemic, I used to work for another broadcaster. And I actually spotted you on Instagram and TikTok first. And I remember messaging you. And this is when you had hardly any followers. And I said, Poppy, I want you on ITV London. Come and talk live. Do you remember that or not? It was one of your first live interviews.
Okay, I remember that, but I didn't know. Sorry.
Yeah, and then I was like, Poppy, I think it'll be great. And you were like, oh, okay. And then literally it just catapulted from there. You kind of go again. And I was like following you, and I was like, oh my gosh. And now you're here on all these shows.
Yeah.
I think presenter as well.
You were definitely part of
many
times. So. Thank you.
Has it surprised you, the reaction, Poppy?
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. This is like absolutely stupid. The thing is, I just thought I was gonna be a chef for the rest of my life. Well, I know I'm a bit of a chef still, but
Yeah.
like, you know, the idea of my life was just gonna be, oh yeah, I love working in kitchens. One day maybe I'll open a restaurant or something eventually, somewhere far down the line. To then just be kind of like accidentally fall into this and it still be going 3 years later is
Yeah. It's
it's just
definitely stood the
huge.
test of time. Definitely.
Yeah, it's really weird. I didn't realize people liked annoying potato ladies as much as they do, but I'll take it.
What is it like to, obviously you are dubbed the potato queen, the tatty queen.
Tea queen, yes. I mean, I would not want to be called anything else ever. Like, what's better than potatoes? Nothing
No.
in reality. And what an absolute privilege. I will carry this sack of potatoes around with me for the rest of my life, and I will look after it. The shoulders are heavy.
You will nurture it, definitely. And obviously, I have to ask this: roast dinner. So my ideal roast dinner is a roast chicken dinner. What's your ideal one?
Yeah. Always well, actually, I did buy beef the other day, but I didn't make it. I'd run out of time to make mine. So we're gonna have it on a Tuesday instead.
Yeah.
So I love a roast chicken. I think it is one of the most underrated best Sunday dinners. First of all, because you get about 2 or 3 meals out of it after, depending on the amount of people that you've got.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
because I feel like actually there should be no rules with Sunday dinner. Like I like a Yorkshire pudding on all of my Sunday roasts, not just my beef. I also have to have mint
Completely
sauce.
agree.
Thank you. There has to be stuffing. There has to be a Yorkshire pudding. I have mint sauce on my vegetables. Full stop. Like
Oh, that's an
anything.
interesting. That's a quirky thing. Yeah.
I'm obsessed. But then I also need cranberry sauce and also horseradish. All the condiments.
All three on one dish.
Yeah, I'm a psychopath. Absolute psychopath. It's not right. It's not okay. People look at me like, you want all of them?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's definitely interesting, but you do what you want, Poppy.
Chicken's definitely rated. You get that crispy skin, you get lovely, moist, delicious chicken, and then you've got meals after to make up with it.
But what is the art of getting that crispy, fluffy potato? That's what everyone listening to this wants to know. How do you get it?
So there's loads of different people have lots of different ways of doing it. And sometimes I do like a tacky potato, not a crispy one. Have you had a tacky potato?
No. What's a tacky potato?
Like it's like not really crispy on the outside. It's like soft, but it's quite, because it's been like loads of fat on it, it gets a bit tacky.
Right.
That's like how my nan used to do it. Like it's a tacky potato, but in the best way possible.
Okay.
But to get a crispy, fluffy roast, you need, again, I would go Maris, Piper, or King Edward potato, because they need to be a starchy, floury potato. And then you need to cut them into big, they've got to be quite large. So let's say you've got a medium-sized potato, it's got to be 3 or 4 pieces.
Right.
That's about as much as you can get out of a spud.
Yeah.
Then it needs to be cooked start off in cold water, really heavily salted, boil it, and then I boil it for a little bit longer. I boil it for about 10 minutes, so they are really kind of falling apart. Drain them off, make sure you put a tea towel over the colander or whatever, put that colander back into the pan that had the hot water in, so it's got hot steam, and just put it almost back on the hob, but the hob turned off, so the heat is just carrying on and the steam is drying the potatoes as dry as you can get the potatoes. You need about like 5 minutes or so, and then you get it into your hot fat. So whether that's vegetable oil is really easy, good. You could do beef fat, goose fat, duck fat, whatever you prefer. I like vegetable oil because I like the potato to taste of potato, but I am also partial to beef fat. Basically all of them. And then it's going to be really raging hot fat, like you would with a Yorkshire pudding. It's going to be super hot. And then just only turn them once whilst they're in the oven, halfway through.
That is sound advice. I mean, with Christmas coming, that's what people need to know, because it is the staple on the Christmas dinner table. I mean, if you get your roasties wrong, whew,
it's all downhill from there, really. If your turkey's moist, great, but if your roast potatoes are wrong, I ain't coming back next year.
Everyone's disappointed. Definitely. So obviously, you've got your garden now, so you want to go out and do a bit more gardening if you get time to.
Yeah.
is there a little venture in this in Poppy's own potatoes and you start selling
Oh,
your own potatoes?
imagine that would be incredible. I think I need a bit more. I'd like to think that I need a bit more than my small little bit of garden.
You've got to start somewhere. You've got to
I have
start
got to
somewhere.
start somewhere. That would be incredible. Imagine if I could. Yeah. You just put something in my head there. It's not okay.
I'll take royalties from that.
Yeah, there'll be some commission for you. Don't worry.
Thank you so much for your time, Poppy.
No,
It's been a delight.
thank
you
you.
so much. And all
Thank
the
you
best for the
so much.
future.
Oh yeah, we'll see. My potato growing business. Here we
Yes.
go.
Oh, I'm sure it'll thrive. No doubt. Take care.
Thank you.
Poppy.
Bye.
Bye.